You're listening to Titular Characters with your host, the adorable Eva Webb.
Let's talk nerdy things like comic books and superheroes with some nerdy peeps, writers, cartoonists, and so much more. Stick around and have some fun with the lovely and adorable Eva Webb.
H.S. Tak is an award-winning filmmaker and writer. His first book, Boy One, came out in 2016 by IDW, and now it's followed by Redshift, which launched in May from Scout Comics and will be available in bookstores everywhere. How are you, Himkar?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
So you've got this amazing book from Scout Comics called Redshift, which explores what life would be like when Earth is no longer in the picture.
So Redshift is basically a family's survival saga in space. It's set out on Mars, and it's about this young astronaut who's recruited to cross into another solar system on a mission to find a new home that can possibly extend humanity. And he leaves his little brother back home, who kind of grows up on Mars, gets sucked into the political spectrum where, at the time on Mars, resources are really hard to come by. Mars is on the brink of civil war. There's constant uprising and rioting because, people are competing for resources. So the brother tries to hold Mars together, and give his older brother time to complete his mission and make it back home, hopefully with good news.
That's awesome. So what inspired you to create this title and this story?
Inspiration comes from a lot of different sources. I would say mainly just I look at what Earth is now and how we kind of compete and fight for resources here. And I was just imagining, what would it be like if it was even more limited than what we have now? Like right now, we have an abundance of resources, and it still causes a lot of strife and war. So I was just imagining what would a world be like that didn't have even the resources we have now. That was kind of like the theme that I wanted to explore. And the inspiration really comes from other artists and other books, TV shows, movies. You just kind of, I don't know, you always admire stuff, other authors and filmmakers and artists, and you sort of take what you can and move with it in your own way. So I think that's what I did with Redshift. It's an amalgamation of different stories.
That's awesome. Now, I heard that in the production of Redshift, you actually had the opportunity to work with NASA and their scientists on writing this book.
Yeah, that was amazing. It was really cool. So when I first started Redshift, I wanted to ground the science and make it as realistic as I could. So I reached out to NASA. Luckily, I got connected with the head of exoplanet exploration at NASA JPL in Pasadena. His name is Dr. Wesley Traub. And we had a really cool kind of back and forth discourse about how life on Mars would be, and the science behind human longevity. It was really interesting. Mars is like, NASA has done a bunch of research into Mars as the last 5 years. So as I've been writing the story, a lot of it was changing on the daily basis based off what they're learning through rover and their Mars exploration programs. So Redshift originally started with obviously the need for resources and extending, life on Mars. Basically what you do is your time there is spent making your time longer. So every minute you're spending basically trying to make more minutes. So more hours and then more days, and those days turn into weeks and weeks and months. So basically you're farming, you're creating oxygen, you're manufacturing water. So when I first started Mars, there was a question whether there was water there and if it was completely dry. And within the years I was making the book, they found out that the North and South polar caps on Mars were filled with ice lakes. So that, came into the story, because now when you start, Helena is a miner in an ice vein mining colony. So it was cool working with them. Like, they were able to really inform the story and make it as real as we can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Was Redshift sort of a social commentary as much as a sci-fi story?
I'm not sure if I did it here. I was just going basically on my discussions with Dr. Traub, which were really cool because they weren't all science-based. A lot of it is political theory. And one thing I learned on Mars, we're not going to have a society that we have here, like in the US, even if it's a US based society with our kind of ideals and our constitution, because on Mars, the freedom is going to be very limited. You can't have people doing whatever they want to do on their own terms. Everyone is going to have to work together, and there's going to have to be consequences if you don't. So realistically, Mars is going to be an authoritarian system, not a democracy, and it's going to be ruled sort of with an iron fist, but it's going to have, I think, a science-based leadership or guidance to it. So it's going to be like, if you could kind of imagine like a North Korea type government that has that kind of power, but the ideology would be based on science.
Where does a good collaboration come from?
For me, it's simple, man. I just try and get people who are better than I am. And it's not that difficult for me because I'm not that good. So I got Brent McKee is an amazing artist. I saw some of his work on Bowery Boys from Dark Horse. And I saw some of his work on an image book. Again, it was like a Western title. And I was like, I always envision life on Mars. You're going to be like a pilgrim or a pioneer, right? So it is going to be like a frontier type life. It's the new West once we get out there, and it's going to be wild. So Brent has some kind of flair for that kind of iconography. I don't know. He was like a natural selection. I got lucky. I got him at the time I did. He hadn't done a first book, but he was looking for one. So this is his first solo book. I think he was perfect for it. He basically painted like a Sergio Leone film out on Mars. That's what it looks like to me. And I couldn't have asked for a better collaborator. Then we got lucky with Scout. They're all a bunch of writers and artists themselves, right? So they kind of get the difficulties in publishing and getting your book out there. And I don't know, it's just easier working with guys that understand it from the lens that I'm looking at it as a writer. Since they're all writers, creators, it's just made it a lot easier. And then Sebastian Chang, who is a colorist, he knocked it out of the park, man. I don't know. You've seen it.
I have. It's the artwork in the book is just, it's just really beautiful, from the line work all the way down to the coloring, and it really draws you in.
There was another cast I did where we were talking about it, and we were like, man, the art is so good. I don't know if I want to ruin it with any words. Like, I was thinking maybe we should just put it out with just pictures, and you don't really need any of my words on there tainting it.
You've written a few different things now. Would you say that creating a comic book is different than you thought it would be?
Yeah, it's pretty different. So I came from a filmmaking background. I worked in New York City in production, like ADing and just overall general production behind the camera, directing too. So, comics it's similar, but it's different. It's the way I look at it is, since I have this filmmaking background and that's where I learned from, it's like a microcosm of making a movie. You still got to sort of produce it. You got to get the right players involved, and then have everyone work together and sort of kind of draw off of your vision. So in that sense, it's similar. But it's just, a lot of times you see the words on the page and you read through the story and it's a bunch of pictures and you're like, man, this looks pretty easy. Like it's something I could easily get into. It really isn't the case. It's pretty tough. Like it's tough to figure out how to pace books, what all information you need to put in there. Uh, it's a it's a pretty impressive challenge, and I'm always constantly amazed at the books that I'm reading, how it was put together and how the story was able to be constructed to come across so cleanly and effectively. So I don't know. It's still pretty amazing. It's just like a film getting made. It's pretty amazing feat in itself. I think comics is very similar in that sense.
So you'll recall that we had Charlie Stickley on the show. Really, really nice guy. What he was saying was that the business model of Scout really thinks more about print than digital. But do you have a thought on that? Do you put much thought into things like guided view and digital formats in general?
Yeah, Charlie Stickney is amazing, man. That he's an amazing writer and creator. And then he's like, I'm so glad he's on Scout, and I met him through there because he's been so super helpful. And he's just I don't know, he's great to bounce ideas off of and figure out what to do.
He's a really neat guy.
Yeah, and he's super smart. So that's one of the reasons Scout I think is so good, because they have him. And that's not even, like his writing is out of this world too. So, and he did say that we could do a collaboration between his world and Redshift at some point, just to throw that out there. So Charlie, if you're listening, I'm going to hold you to that at some point.
Oh, nice. And he is listening too. I guarantee it.
So I think nowadays, I look at my kids, man, and they're constantly like attracted to screens more so than they are. They do like books, but the screen dominates their love for screen more than paper, right? So I think you have to start thinking about digital. I do read some like webtoons and stuff like that, and I like it. It's super addictive. I would say even they could be more addictive than opening pages. So I do think about digital. I haven't really constructed anything for it, but it's, since you have to think more linearly rather than panel to panel, even though it's panel to panel, but it's like going straight down the page with a flick of the thumb. So I think I'm definitely interested in exploring it. I haven't had a story yet that could fit it, but I think I do have one coming that I'm going to try to do it specifically for that format. But because I think it's the future, man. It's like everyone's saying, don't buy crypto, but I don't know, man. Maybe you should look into it.
Awesome. So do you have a particular emotional place that you like to create from? Where do you find your zen?
I just try and write as much as I can, to be honest, and I try and get that. Even though it's like practice reps, you just keep writing, and a lot of it gets thrown out, and not a lot of it, but some of it sticks. I guess you get happy when it sticks, and definitely I've been happy with the rollout of Redshift because it seems to be getting received well. And I've been on the other side of that too. So I don't know. I think I wouldn't call it Zen. It's more of a relief, like, yes, you put a lot of time and energy and work into the book, and it's getting some recognition, which is cool. And I don't think about it when I write. When I write, I just try and write as much as I can. I don't, if I don't write, I try not to beat myself up too bad. But yeah, I think, maybe there's Zen. Maybe there's Zen, and when I'm writing a lot and reading a lot, I definitely feel good. Definitely when I'm watching films too. When I'm watching films or I'm reading books that I enjoy, I definitely feel at peace, and I feel like I'm, absorbing some little piece of the world that someone's trying to tell me. So maybe that's what it is.
So, how do you approach diversity and representation in your work?
So when I was writing Redshift, it was like five. It came from a screenplay that I had written that no one was really. It's too difficult to make. No one was really. It was very hard to push in Hollywood, right? Because it's a big space sci-fi epic. I think at the time, a little bit after I had bought the script out, Interstellar was made, so it's somewhat in the same vein, and so whatever it wasn't getting much traction in Hollywood. One of the things that the producers at the time, not the current producer, the ones at the time were like, you have to cast, in order to do this cast, we have to cast like a Robert Pattinson. And we have to have a love interest that's like, whatever the chick on Spider-Man was at that time. So they're both obviously like white, blonde hair, blue-eyed type characters. And I was getting pushed to have these characters in the story be like that. So luckily, at the end of the day, they never were able to do anything anyways. So when I got to the comic, I was like, all right, let me just fix this part of it, because I don't really need to listen to them anymore, and I can do what I want to do. So I changed the female lead to an Indian girl because I'm, my parents are Indian, and I don't know, I just want to show that out on Mars, first of all, it's going to be whoever makes it to Mars. It's not going to be just like one group of people. It's going to be a global effort, and it's going to be multi-ethnic, multicultural. So I don't know. I figure things are changing now, because we've had some movements in the last few years on that front, and that's, I guess, what it should be. And I'm all for it, man. Like the next two books I'm doing are pretty exclusively like characters of color or not. I guess you would say underrepresented characters. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and we were talking about it actually last time. Yeah, funny story. We had a technical glitch, and this is actually the second time we're recording this interview, and I have to apologize, Himkar, because you have been so gracious. Can you talk about the other two books you're working on, or is it too early?
No, I can talk about them. I can't talk about who's publishing them yet.
Gotcha.
But I can tell you, okay, so Crashland is a story about a 10-year-old orphan who lives in the borderlands of Afghanistan and India during 1942. And she finds a Royal Air Force fighter pilot who crashes into the mountains there. And that area is the Northwest Frontier Provinces, which is very hostile towards the British because they control India. And they're always worried that the British are going to, expand out of India and start, putting their eyes on Afghanistan. So once they come to know of a British pilot that has crashed there on some secret mission. All the warlords get together and are looking for this pilot. And this little girl who's an orphan works in a brothel. You can see, she's 10 years old, but you can see in like a couple of years, she's going to be, working at the brothel in another capacity than she is now, where she's like a Cinderella type, So she finds this pilot and she's like, if I can get this white guy to the border of India, where there's a British stronghold, then the British might give me a better life, give me a way out. So that's Crashland. That's going to come, I think, next year. The book's already done. It's been done with Amanke Nawalpan, who is my artist for Boy One, which was my first book published with IDW. Amanke is great. He won the DC Town Award a couple years ago as an artist, and he's killing it. Like, he's doing Justice League Dark. He's done some Batman stuff, some a bunch of big DC stuff, books. So I think now he's doing Crush and Lobo for DC Pride month. So that book, it looks great. Hopefully my art can keep up. Hopefully my writing can keep up with Amanke's art. But yeah, so that's that story. And then I have another story that's set in 16th century Japan, which is kind of a samurai story. So I'm excited about both of them. And it's cool because I did 2 sci-fi books and now I pivoted completely and I'm doing historical fiction.
That's really exciting. Now back to Redshift. What are the plans? Are there additional arcs after this first story?
I hope so. It depends on if you guys like it or not. I think definitely it's gonna. I have arcs. I mean, I know I can keep going, man. Space is huge. Like we have a lot to do out there. It's not gonna be as easy as like, oh, you find a new Earth and let's go. So definitely, there's more to it. We have 6 issues here. And it's going to tell a full story of Helena and his journey and how, and his brother and his brother's journey. And then there's definitely more to bite off after it.
Do you still have time to read comics as a fan?
Yeah, I mean, I have to. Yeah, I got to.
Nice. What are you reading at the moment?
Right now, in front of me, I have Black Hammer and it's opened.
Nice.
I think I'm on book 4. So I'm reading Black Hammer right now. Jeff Lemire is one of my favorite writers. Definitely someone I admire, look up to. And so I try and, read everything he does. Black Hammer is awesome. Sort of to me, it has a WandaVision feeling. I feel like the writer's room was definitely reading this at some point.
Cool.
But I don't know. I like it. He tells a good family story. So I was trying to read his stuff. Another book I'm reading is Haha. It's an image book. I think the writer's name is Maxwell Prince or W. Maxwell Prince. I wasn't familiar with his stuff before, but it's really cool. It's, I don't know. It's hard to explain what exactly it is. It's like psychological horror or something. It's super good though. It has like a level of creepiness, underlying. The first story was about a clown who lost his job, and it's super simple. I just like the way Mr. Prince just goes about his storytelling.
Do you have a favorite single issue story or title of all time?
I mean, I don't have a favorite one, but I think if I had to choose, I would probably say Why the Last Man, because to me it has like a little of everything. It's a little bit sci-fi, it's a little bit drama, it's a little bit comedy. Vaughn he just knows how to tell stories now, and the pacing is amazing. I don't know, there's just so much. Every time I read it, I can pick up on stuff. And that's the book, I think, I took a hiatus away from comics and reading comics and graphic novels and stuff. And that's what pulled me back. So even just for sentimental purposes, I would probably say Why. And I heard they're coming out with a TV show. So I'm super excited about that.
Is there a single person that comes to mind for you as either the most inspiring creator you can think of, or the most underrated?
Yeah, for this question, I'm going to say my original letterer for Boy One, she wasn't able to stick onto it just because of how production went and timing and scheduling. But she gave me my original pitch book for Boy One, which she did. Her name is Janice Chang. And, letters, I think in general are just underrated.
They totally are.
Yeah. What they do is they basically make the storytelling seamless. They bridge it to to the audience or to the reader, and they do it. The good ones do it seamlessly, so your eyes don't stray from the art, and you still absorb the story and the dialogue. So I don't know, Janice. Again, it's also a sentimental pick, just because she got me my first deal with for Boy One with IDW. I was running around cons. I didn't know anyone. I wasn't part of the industry. I just had this book in my hand that I knew I wanted to make, and I did the first issue. And I was like, how am I gonna, how the hell am I gonna break in? How am I gonna get people to look at this? And Janice, I met her at San Diego Comic-Con, I think in 2015 or something. And she's like, all right, look, don't worry about it. Let me introduce you around. So I ran around with her. She was able to talk to Chris Ryall, who was the COO of IDW at the time, and one of their editors. And he was just, I don't know what happened, man. She introduced me to him. She's like, hey, Chris, you got to meet Himkar. He's got a really cool book. And this is like during the middle, of San Diego Comic-Con. So obviously Chris is really busy at the IDW booth. So I don't know what I did. I think I just spit out some BS at him, and he was like, dude, I got to go to a panel. Just take my card and hit me up later. So I was like, all right, thank you. And so I think through her connection, he actually took it seriously. Took a look at the work. The art was good. And obviously she was, she connected the story to him through her words. And from there, I was able to land that deal. And I think it's because, you hear about trying to pitch at cons and it doesn't work. And I would agree with that. Usually it doesn't, because these guys are too busy. I just got lucky that Janice was there, and everyone respects her and what she's done. She's worked with Stan Lee. She's worked on the original, like a lot of the original Marvel titles, like Alpha Flight and so many other books. She's just a veteran and been around for so long in the industry, and had a pretty big influence. So I would say, yeah, Janice Chang would be my underrated and my inspiration.
That is an amazing story, dude. Wow. Congrats. That is beautiful. That is so cool. Well, Himkar, it looks like we are pushing the end of the show. Are you ready for the fun closing segment?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
All right, let's start with an easy one. So what's your favorite food?
Oh, favorite food is easy. That is easy. It's Indian food, man, because I was, I'm Indian. So I like anything spicy put in front of me, I'll eat it.
Now, are you thinking like, a tikka masala or a korma or
anything masala, curry? I'm Indian through and through. So whatever you put in, that's, as long as it's got red and green chilies in it.
So you're a pragmatist.
Man, I can go, Chinese, Vietnamese.
Awesome. For me, it's Mediterranean food,
Yeah.
But that is awesome. That is awesome. So would you say you're a cat person or a dog person?
I'm a dog person.
What's the best swear word?
Oh, all right. I'm going to go with my Indian theme. So there's a word that I learned from my cousins whenever I go to India. I learned it when I was very young. It's a take on motherfucker, but it doesn't mean motherfucker. It's called banchot. It's called someone a banchot. It's basically a similar thing, but it might be even worse in terms of, it means sister fucker. It's like my favorite curse word. And I don't know. I guess that would be it.
What inspires you?
I think we touched on it earlier. The thing that inspires me, and I'm going to take this from Martin Scorsese, who was asked the same question, and I'm going to shamelessly just steal it. It's other artists and other creators. I just get inspired reading other people's work, looking at other people's art, and watching other people's creations. I think that's probably like when I'm writing the best, it's after I've just finished either watching a film or reading something that I loved. So that's definitely without a doubt my inspiration.
So where do you find joy?
You can find joy anywhere. I find it everywhere I am. Um, I don't know. I feel like joy is for me. It comes from inside me. So it's not, I try and make any situation a good situation.
Cool. I have a new speculative question here that you have
Oh
not heard
man.
before. So here it goes. So there's this big battle, and Thanos is about to snap his fingers and destroy half the population of the universe. But just as that happens, he falls over, dead from a heart attack, and that gives you the Infinity Gauntlet. What's the first thing that you would do with it?
So the Infinity Gauntlet, I never understood exactly what it could do. It could wipe out humanity, or it could do what? What else? What's the other thing it could do?
The limits are your imagination, creation, destruction, bend reality to your whim.
But okay, so I would that's a tough one, man. I would snap my fingers, and I'm just winging this here. I guess I would try and, this might sound cheesy. I guess I would try and knock out all of the kind of contrarian hate that's around the world, right? And try and see if there's a way. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but if everyone can get along, see what kind of place we'd have if we weren't always competing with each other and trying to kill each other off for what it would be. I think it would let me try and see if I could take away the human emotion of greed, and what kind of world it would be.
Okay, so 100 years from now, NASA takes your entire creative output, everything you've ever written, created, drawn, whatever, throws it in a space capsule, which somehow at a later point lands on an alien planet where, statistically, in a statistically improbable way, they all happen to speak English. So they open up the space capsule, these aliens, and they find your work. What do they think of it?
I think, I don't honestly, I'm not, it's not something I would really consider or worry about. Whatever they thought. I would just hope that they could get across, I guess, our history and our record, in almost like I don't know, in a way that they could understand who we were, what we were about, what we did, not sugarcoated, even the bad things, and just, as a species, what we accomplished, whether it was either wiping out the earth and then having to move to Mars, or, or we built all this stuff and somehow worked it out and had as much, I guess, happiness and success as we could. I don't know. I think as long as they got a clear record of who we were as a people, I think that would be kind of cool.
Neat. So, what's next for H.S. Tak?
Next is I got in an hour I'm going to go to bed, so that's one thing I'm looking forward to.
There you go.
I think after that, so I got to finish. We're working on issue 6, trying to close out Redshift as strong as possible. And then we'll probably have, in a few months, make an announcement about one of these books that I have, and then in another few months, another of the books. And I got to just, keep going. And I got to find the next, my next story, basically. So if anyone has any ideas, hit me up.
So, Himkar, I wanted to thank you for making the time to do my humble little podcast. This has been so much fun, and you have just been an amazing guest.
No, thanks for having me. I was, I know this is the second time we talked, and that's cool, man. I was excited because I loved the first time, and I love this time even more. I think it was cool. Thank you for having me.
So where can people find you online?
Mainly on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, and it's the same handle. It's H.S Tronic. So it's HSTRONIC. And I'm around, so I'm always interacting with fans and people and whoever, so hit me up.
And that's it, my babies. It's time to close the show. I wanted to thank you for being gorgeous, being valid, and living your best life. We couldn't do this humble little podcast without you, and I appreciate all the support we get. This episode was part of Batch 38. Titular Characters is a show about the things we love. It's produced and hosted by the adorable Eva Webb. That's me. Opening theme by Antonia Marquis. Closing theme by Mikey Flash of Speed Force Music. The dreamy announcer guy is Donnie Underwood, and he's amazing. We love him. So, have you thought about supporting the show? There are tons of ways to do it. You could show your support by following me at Eva is Adorable, because I am, on Twitter. Leaving us a review on Apple Podcast, CastBox, or Podchaser. And if you're feeling like you want to help out financially, you can visit us at buymeacoffee.com/Eva is Adorable. There, you can donate as little as $1, and all proceeds go towards the cost of producing and hosting this show. Every little bit helps, and you are amazing for even considering it. Anyway, babies, that's all we got. Join us next time for another death-defying adventure in cyberspace. Oh, and when you do, bring candy. Love yas.